And welcome to another episode of Nittany Game Week Overtime. I'm Todd Sadowski alongside Jay Paterno and Tom Bradley, and we're kind of beside ourselves. It's the moment we've been waiting for. The schedules have been released somewhat. We at least know the opponents. We don't know the dates yet, guys. 24, 25, 26, 27. And as we expected, we got some West Coast road trips. We got some really cool home opponents. I like that the West Coast opponents have been spread out like one per year. So some awesome road trips coming up. But yeah, kind of exciting time, isn't it, to know who the future opponents are.
Yeah, like 5 months ago, USC was coming here next year. I'm like, that'd be a great whiteout game. Now we're going to them. So, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But certainly a lot of opponents on here that we have not played in a long, long time.
Yeah, I'd like to see the dates on those. Do you think those UCLA wants to come in late November to Happy Valley?
Probably not. The other way around, though, certainly would love to go out to the West Coast at that time of the year, Tom. And I know all your phone's probably blowing up from all your UCLA buddies calling you up to say, "Come on back out. Let's hang out." So, all right, let's take a look. Let's go to the 2024 full screen first about our opponents. As you look at it, you got home Bowling Green, Kent State, Illinois, Maryland, Ohio State on the schedule. UCLA's right there, along with Washington. I love that. And then there's your away games: Morgantown, USC, Wisconsin. I mean, those are. Look, that's a solid-looking schedule. That's a fun schedule right there for Penn State fans. Anything jump out at you guys?
Well, I think that going to West Virginia will be fun. Going to USC, going to Wisconsin, those are big. We haven't been there in a while. Penn State has not been there in a while. So any of those places.
Yeah, I agree with you. They're tough places to play. Wisconsin's a tough place to play.
Yeah, but 3 good home games where now you got a possibility of a really good opponent for your whiteout now. One of those 3 games will fall as the whiteout.
Some cool road trips. Yep. Madison, Morgantown, L.A. All right, let's go to 2025 as we look at the opponents for the home and away on this. All right, so they're still looking for one more game left to schedule, but you got right now Oregon at home, and then you're going to be headed out to UCLA and also to Columbus.
Yeah, again, tough draw there. Again, going on the West Coast again should help you if you want to recruit out that part of the country, but going to need another big home game really in that schedule.
I agree with you. I think that's going to be the key to setting that one up.
As soon as you know the dates, head it back out to L.A. for UCLA to say hi to the Bruins, your former Bruins fans. So, okay, let's go to 2026 as we look at that schedule. And you're looking at Minnesota, Purdue, Rutgers, Wisconsin. USC comes to Happy Valley away at Maryland. You got the Michigan at the Big House, and then Washington. Everybody talks about, Jay, you've mentioned it, how great a trip the Washington trip is, or at least the feedback that we get from that particular location, Tom.
You've been there, done it. Great place, right on the water. It's unbelievable atmosphere, and that's a great trip for people who want to go. And by the way, Todd, do you know in L.A. what the airport's named?
Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
No is the answer.
Bradley International.
Tom Bradley, former mayor of L.A.
Come on.
Mayor. Yes.
Trust me, every time I fly in there, I cringe.
I should have known. Yes. I should have known it was a setup. So, So, okay, 2027. Let's go to 2027. We'll stop talking about the L.A. airport and get to 2027 opponents. So you got Michigan at home and then Washington at home in Happy Valley. And there it is, Oregon, and then back to Madison. I like that Oregon. Like we said, spread out those new Big Ten opponents out west and out to Oregon. So these are not easy locations to go play at, especially if you haven't seen them before. The whole logistics. I mean, new locations. What is that like? I mean, are there going to be logistical issues, or those things will be worked out, I guess, ahead of time?
I think you'll be talking to teams that are in the Pac-12 now and saying, where do you stay when you go to this place? A town like Oregon, probably in Eugene, has a hotel that's probably reserved for the visiting opponents. That's a loud place to play, everybody says. But it's if you look at the window right now, this is a year that sets up to get a Big Ten championship because the climb's going to get a lot higher with these games to win the thing. And with 18 teams competing for that championship.
And one of the great things we keep talking about West Coast, the field's still 100 yards long, so
everything's the same.
Everything's the same once you get on that field.
Yeah, everything's the same in that regard. But to your point, Jay, about the Big Ten Conference and that part of it, the championship's never been more set up for them for this year. So there's nothing like that urgency and that sense of urgency right now. But I can say, from our perspective, the Auburn trip was fantastic. And so when you go to these new locations, I think Nittany Lions fans traveling and knowing what the schedule's going to be, the turnout's going to be tremendous. These are going to be really, really fun trips that, of course, you want to go and get a victory at the location and come back, but just being able to plan that and go and do those types of things. To be the first Big Ten team at Jordan-Hare Stadium was tremendous. It was really, really cool. So this is new territory that everybody is going to be heading out to. Homecoming game. Let's switch now to a big weekend. Not only, for the football game, you got to get the W against UMass. I don't think they're going to offer the kind of resistance you would get from most homecoming opponents, but you got to take care of the Minutemen. But all of homecoming in general, your guys, what are the first things that come to your guys' mind when you think homecoming at Penn State? Is it all football related, or are there some other things that come to mind?
I think there's some other things that come to mind. Just the people coming back, and you get to see everybody. A lot of old players on the sideline that they scheduled the one trip they come to every year is for homecoming, and they used to come down to the office and stop by, and you'd have to listen to all the tall tales. They got larger as the years went on.
I think, for kids, the parade on Friday is a lot of fun because they're throwing candy. And even when I was coaching, I'd find 45 minutes an hour to go to the parade Friday night, and my kids would come back with bags and bags of candy. For all the fraternities and sororities, their alums come back. I think it's just a neat way to reconnect. Just beyond the football.
Yeah, I mean, not just coaches, but players, alumni. I mean, you guys have experienced it from all angles as far as homecoming goes. And the message to my kids is always the same. I get the Kit Kats. That's all. I get the Kit Kats.
Twix is the big fight in our house.
Yeah. So preference, I mean, we get Twix, Kit Kat, anything.
I don't have that problem in my house.
No, you just get it all. Okay. You hog it all up. All right, staying healthy for Ohio State. Look, that's really important. We looked at the schedule, this year's schedule, and said, okay, well, you got the bye week, you got UMass, so if you don't have somebody that's perfectly healthy, rest them up, because then it's the trip to Columbus, and it's just creeping closer and closer. So staying healthy for Ohio State, Tom, that's got to be imperative. That's got to be a priority.
Well, you have the chance now. You had the bye week. UMass, you should be able to get that rolling pretty early in the game and get your guys out of there and keep them healthy. So that's going to be the key thing. You do not want to go to Columbus not being 100% healthy with this opportunity that you have.
I think, and we'll talk about this on the show as well. I mean, playing a team like UMass, you want to get your offense getting some bigger plays, get a little more confidence in the length of drives and things that you can do, and kind of there's been a little bit of tension about not getting the big passes and not getting the big runs. I think you want to try and get some of that established for a confidence level before you head out to Columbus.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be a couple things to look for. I think just like in other games, I'd like to get a comfortable lead, get Bo Perbula in there to get him a little bit of time as well, keep Drew Aller healthy and that type of deal. Katron Allen, I mean, he's probably got to be 95% to even see a snap, I guess, on the field. I mean, that's an imperative part of your offense. I'm sure they're going to keep him off the field if they can, just to get him perfectly healthy. So that'll be interesting to watch. Also interesting are the fan questions. It's a fun part of it for us, and we love the feedback. We'd like to hear from the fans out there in our overtime segment. We're going to go to our first question, and that is from Terry. It's about road trips. We discussed the schedule, so this is good timing. As fans who like to go to road games, and with the new West Coast opponents coming up, what are some of your favorite places that you've seen or coached in? Who wants to grab that one
I'll let him
first?
start with the West Coast ones because he was in the Pac-12 for a couple of years, so he's seen some.
Well, I think you're going to like, obviously going to the Rose Bowl is a great place, great venue to play. You get up to Washington, they're going to love that. Oregon's a great place too. They're going to see there's some really fun places to play out there. And
What about USC? What about the Coliseum?
the Coliseum is nice. It's not as much. I don't think it's as good as the Rose Bowl. There's something about being in the Rose Bowl when you pull up there. But the Coliseum with the history, though, still is pretty impressive.
Yeah. How about you?
I've been to USC, went to UCLA game, and it's a little different environment. There is tailgating, but like people live in the neighborhood just drop in tailgates, which is kind of funny because they're just hanging out. But I think that Wisconsin, I've always loved playing there at night. Their fans are great. Ohio State, but people have been making those road trips for years.
All right, so those are the favorite ones. I know for me, I'll answer it this way: some of the places I'm most eager to go see. Morgantown's going to be nuts. It's going to be nuts.
I've been there too.
Right,
Yes.
right. I just can't
Defend
wait.
the couches.
I can't wait for that. I think that's
They
going
have
to be
great fans, or they really do. They love their Mountaineers with a passion.
Yeah.
It's really a whole nother level.
I think that's really cool. We've seen Penn State in the Rose Bowl, so you're right. I mean, it is an amazing place, and I think that Washington trip is going to be really, really neat to see. Close to Seattle, all that kind of stuff. You wrap some of these trips around a couple other days. What you're doing is going to be okay. Let's go to our second question. It's from Jake. Big Ten quarterback play. It seems that the Big Ten QBs are not quite as good as some that we've seen recently. The Pac-12 has a lot of really good ones, and most of them are dual threat kind of guys, which schools in the Big Ten seem to be moving away from. Is this just a one-year glitch? By the way, you mentioned the Pac-12 quarterbacks used to be in the Big Ten. Michael Penix with Washington. So you want to hit this one, Jay? You want to talk about the Big Ten QB play?
Well, I think if you look at, there's been a number of first-round guys, predominantly from Ohio State the last couple of years. They've kind of been at a different level. But if you look at the Big Ten play right now as opposed to the Pac-12, which they mentioned, there are 5 or 6 quarterbacks in the Pac-12 that if they were in the Big Ten might be first-team All-Big Ten. It's that deep. And that's not a discredit to the guys in the Big Ten. They have more experienced guys. There aren't a lot of teams that have that great defense and that experienced quarterback in the Big Ten. If you do notice, Ohio State's gone away from the mobile quarterback. Penn State's gone away from the mobile quarterback. I don't know if that's intentional or it's you get the best guy on the board you can to recruit. But I think it does impact what you see defensively. But I think that for Penn State's defense, the best guy you're going to see the rest of the year is at Michigan. And he's an experienced guy. Ohio State, we'll see how good he is. And Tagovailoa at Maryland can be really, really good and really, really ordinary at times. So he's been inconsistent. So I think as you look at what Penn State's going to face, defensively they should be up to task.
Yeah, they sure should. Now, for me, I think the hardest thing with quarterback, I don't like the mobile guy.
Yep.
That can do so many different things because
I
now
love them.
I don't like him. This is why I knew the question's going to him first. When we start talking about quarterback, they're not my favorite guys.
Yeah.
But that's the one thing. When you get a mobile guy, I think it's much harder than a guy who's a statue in the pocket.
Well, it's frustrating for defensive linemen for the rush when you go and as a defense, you've done everything that you're supposed to do, and yet the guy kind of slides away, runs for 6 or 7 yards, and now the chains are moving. You got a fresh set of downs that you have to face. And the pro style offense, I mean, some of the, talk about that part of it, Tom, but then also the pro style guy. What kind of things do you have to defend against, and how frustrating is it?
The thing is,
facing
the one
a guy
thing
like
with
that?
when you get the guy that can run and do all those different things, they used to say lanes aren't just for cars. Because everybody has to know their assignment, where they are, keep the ball on the inside shoulder. You have to be more disciplined. When you have a guy that's a pocket guy, you can take a couple of chances. You can do some things differently. If you flush him out, he's not going to beat you anywhere. You can probably run him down.
And whether it's a one-year glitch, but you look at Penn State, behind Allard, you have Verbula, who is that mobile guy. So I don't know that everybody's moving away from that, or if it's just, it's a one-year thing, a 2-year thing.
I'm going to say it's probably more of just a one-year thing, and guys that have kind of stepped up and maybe won some jobs that you weren't sure were going to. Not necessarily Drew. We kind of had that feeling with Drew, but with McCord at Ohio State, we've seen him. He's come through the PIAA, state championship, so you know kind of what quarterback he is, and it's hard to beat that chemistry with Marvin Harrison Jr. If Marvin Harrison Jr. says, "Hey, I have chemistry with this particular guy," you go, "Okay, well, we'll have somebody throw that ball to you then." So because he's something. All right, last one, and we'll kind of get to this one somewhat quickly. Defending tempo. This is from Barb. We hear a lot about tempo offense on TV and how hard it is to defend. One announcer said it's hard to practice against. What exactly does tempo mean, and why is it so hard to defend, Tom? We'll take this one.
Are we talking about Coach Paterno having a Ford Tempo in 1986 for the national championship here?
That's
No,
what he was driving.
That's what he was driving. He had a Ford Tempo in 1986. That might have been the best car he ever had, by the way.
Jay, you want to take my car? No, I'll pass. I'll take Mom's car.
That's a true story. Here's what the problem is with tempo, I think. One of the things is because you don't see it all the time, it's hard to practice against. You have to be able to organize your practice in such a way that you create the tempo. You're never going to be as accurate as what you're playing against, especially if your team's not – the scout guys haven't done it, and they, to get the repetition to be it. The other problem is the communication, because you're not getting in the huddle, you're not getting the signal, someone's not calling, hey, it's a look-see, you got to get the signal in, everybody got to be on the same page on the signal, everybody's got to know that, rather than, we're huddling up and, okay, they're huddling, we take our time, it gets across. No, the communication becomes a very big issue against tempo.
Yeah. Offensively, you can really trip them up, though. And like you said, you can only practice against a certain tempo. So you can do it at one point, and then you can go, slower, faster, and mix it up. Go ahead.
Here's the other thing that's hard is you don't have that many linemen to practice. So you remember they have to stay up on one knee. Your skill guys, you can get them. You usually have enough group of those to get them up there fast. But the linemen, so now you have to have your cards organized. That you've got one guy holding cards for the linemen, one guy holding cards for the receivers on the side to create that tempo. It's just hard to create the tempo to practice against.
And if you're home, defensively, you really got to communicate, because if the crowd's loud, your guys trying to communicate and bump things around. On the road, it can be challenging to do it because, again, once again, the crowd noise, the smart fans know when you're running the tempo offense, make as much noise as you can so they can't communicate, and then you got to try and steal signals.
Well, the better the starters you have and the better in shape that they are, the harder it is for tempo to be effective against them. It kind of minimizes that depth factor a little bit if
He
you
brought
can't
up a
get
really
rotating
good
them
point
in.
about the signals, because now you need more signals than you normally have, because you can't let them steal your signals. So that's another thing that you have to get on the same page with all your guys about during the week, to make sure that you're covering all those signals in practice so they get used to seeing it.
Yeah,
Well, no one ever stole your signals. They were too
I
wily.
don't.
In 1992, we played Charlie Ward. They were in the fast break offense. I was a GA at Virginia, and they never changed their signals the whole year. So by the time they got to us, we had all their signals. And the defense coordinator was like, okay, what are they running? Now they scored on 2 fluke plays and beat us 13-6, but they were averaging 37, 40 points a game, and we had all their signals, never changed them.
But
So it does happen.
You don't even sometimes now. A lot of times, even if you're not playing a no huddle, they don't even go back into a defensive huddle anymore like the old days. You just signal it in. They stay right where they are, stays in the X. And then there are some times when you're playing someplace, you can actually yell it into the corner, and he'll run it in and take it in. So there's a lot of different ways to do it depending on what you're going against.
Well, one thing we know is the bye week's over, and we're hitting the stretch. Seven straight weeks of football for Penn State. Lots going to be decided coming up. The trip to Columbus, and then Michigan comes to town. They got to go to Maryland. So, they got opportunity right in front of them. They should be healthy, ready to go. See if they can stay that way. We are about ready to go record this week's Nittany Game Week. Emily Campagno from Fox News is our Impact interview guest. We're still not sure why she continues to say yes. She did it last year. We're happy that she's coming back to talk to these 3 knuckleheads again and talk a little bit about a University of Washington alum. So we're going to get some insight about what that trip might look like as well. So thanks for joining us. Todd Sadowski, Jay Paterno, Tom Bradley. Thanks for joining us for Overtime on Nittany Game Week.